The moment the cake hit the bottom of the trash can, I heard my daughter make a sound I'd never heard before. It was small, like an animal caught in something. And what happened next made the whole room go so quiet you could hear the frosting slide off the layers in the garbage. I'm sharing this story on Anonymous Confessions because some family wounds don't heal. They just wait for the right moment to rip open again. If you've ever watched someone you love get crushed by the people who should protect them, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends. My name is Jennifer, and for 14 years, I thought I understood my husband's family. I thought they were loud and dramatic, sure, but basically good people. I was wrong about the good part. Let me paint you a picture of the 3 days before my sister-in-law Madison's birthday. Our kitchen looked like a small bakery had exploded. Chloe, my 14-year-old, had taken over every surface. There were bags of flour on the windowsill, bowls stacked in the sink, and little pieces of parchment paper everywhere with test swirls of frosting. She'd been planning this cake for months, actually, ever since she heard Madison say something at a bakery downtown. But here's the thing about my sister-in-law. She says a lot of things. The problem is she never means any of them. Chloe wanted vanilla bean cake with strawberry filling, not because it was easy, but because Madison had once called those flavors expensive while posing for a photo in front of a bakery display case. My daughter heard that and filed it away like a secret mission. She spent 3 days after school measuring and mixing and testing. She'd come home, drop her backpack, and immediately start pulling ingredients out of the fridge. The night before the party, I watched her pipe the words "favorite aunt" onto the top of that cake. Her hands were shaking so bad, she had to steady the turntable with her other elbow. She'd whisper to herself, "Don't breathe on me, Mom," even though I was standing 3 feet away. She added little pink stars around the letters because she wanted it to look loved. That was her word, loved. I asked her if she was nervous. She just smiled and said, "Aunt Madison is going to lose her mind, in a good way." She had no idea, none at all. And honestly, neither did I. The drive to my mother-in-law, Karen's house, was filled with Chloe checking the cake carrier in the back seat every 30 seconds. She'd twist around, make sure it hadn't slid, then face forward again. "Keep it level," I reminded her. "Let Madison see it before anyone cuts it." Chloe nodded so seriously, like I'd given her the most important instruction of her life. Karen's house was already loud when we pulled up. You could hear it from the street. Perfume and laughter and people talking over each other in that way my husband's family calls celebration, but really just means nobody listens. Matt, my husband, squeezed my hand before we went in. He'd been quiet all morning. Madison stood by the dining room arch in a tight white dress, taking pictures with her friends from acting school. Karen was adjusting blinds for better light, moving furniture, treating her daughter like a celebrity instead of a 19-year-old who'd never had a real job. Chloe asked if she could put the cake in the spare fridge until dessert. Karen waved her off without looking, "As long as it doesn't take up too much room." We waited through dinner, watched Madison open gift after gift, saying, "Oh my God, stop," in that voice that means keep going. Chloe sat straight the whole time, barely eating, just waiting. When Karen finally announced dessert, Chloe moved so fast her fork hit the floor. She disappeared toward the spare fridge and came back carrying that cake like it was made of glass. And for one beautiful second, the whole room stopped. The frosting was perfect, smooth and white, with those strawberries around the base still bright and fresh. The pink letters sat right in the center, "Favorite Aunt." You could see the love in every swirl. Even my father-in-law, Robert, stopped talking. Chloe set it down in front of Madison and said, "I made it for you, from scratch." And then Madison tilted her head, looked at the writing, and let out this laugh that didn't belong anywhere near a birthday party.
Wait, Madison said, covering her mouth. This is serious? Watched my daughter's expression change. It was slow at first, like she was trying to translate a language she didn't understand. One of Madison's friends looked down at her plate. Madison stepped closer to the cake without touching it, her face tightening like Chloe had handed her something embarrassing. Favorite aunt? Madison repeated. That's intense. Chloe blinked. You said you liked this kind, at the bakery, remember? Madison laughed again, sharper this time. Yeah, in pictures. I have callbacks next week. I'm not eating sugar, and I definitely can't post a cake that says that. Karen made this quiet sound of agreement behind her, like Madison had made a reasonable point. Chloe was still holding the cake board. Her voice got small. You don't have to post it. I just made it because it's your birthday. Madison glanced at her friends and shrugged. It kind of looks like a kid cake, Chloe, and favorite aunt makes it sound like I'm 40. A couple people smiled, that awful smile adults do when they want to laugh at something cruel without owning it. I saw the color rise in Chloe's face, watched it spread from her neck to her cheeks like someone had tipped a glass of red wine across her skin. Then Karen pushed back her chair. This is the part of the story where everything breaks, and honestly, this is why I love this community on Anonymous Confessions, because you guys understand that family drama doesn't happen in big explosions. It happens in moments like this. If you're relating to this at all, smash that like button and subscribe. Share your own family betrayal stories in the comments. I read every single one. Karen crossed the room with that brisk energy she uses when she wants cruelty to look like common sense. She slid one hand under the cake board and said, "Let me help before this gets messier than it already is." Chloe didn't let go right away. Karen lowered her voice into that sugary, sweet tone she saves for public corrections. Honey, nobody here is going to eat this, sweetie. Madison has to be careful, and most of us are trying not to poison ourselves with frosting. Chloe's mouth opened, closed. She looked at me like she'd missed an instruction somewhere. 3 days, I said, finally getting out of my chair. Karen gave me a look like I was the one making a scene. That was very poor judgment, she replied. And then, in front of the whole table, she lifted that cake, walked it to the kitchen trash, tipped the board, and let the whole thing slide into the can. Strawberries, layers, pink letters. All of it. The sound it made when it hit the bottom, I still hear it sometimes at 3 in the morning. Chloe made that small sound again, covered her face. Madison looked away like she was bored. Robert muttered something about not blowing things out of proportion. One of Matt's aunts said, "Teen girls are so sensitive about food." I stood there with my body hot and useless while my daughter cried in the middle of that dining room. Half the family acted like the crying was the embarrassing part. Madison sat back down first. "Can we please not ruin my birthday over cake?" She reached for her glass like the problem had just appeared on its own. Karen came back from the kitchen wiping frosting off her fingers. "Exactly, we had fruit and macaroons for a reason." Chloe turned toward the hallway, still crying. I followed her. But before we made it out, Karen called after us. She needs to learn not everything she makes is appropriate for every event. That stopped me cold. I turned around and saw the table clearly for the first time. Relatives studying their plates, Madison staring at her phone, Robert annoyed that dinner had become inconvenient, and Matt sitting very still at the far end with his napkin folded beside his hand. He wasn't angry in the loud way. He looked precise, like a surgeon about to make the first cut. Chloe whispered, "I'm sorry," and that was the sentence that finally snapped something in me. "You are not apologizing for being kind," I told her. Across the room, Matt pushed his chair back. The scrape cut through every other sound in that house. Karen opened her mouth to manage him the way she managed everyone else. She was too late. Matt stood up slow enough that everyone watched before he said a word. He picked up his water glass like he was making a toast, then looked directly at Madison. I wish you every success in acting, modeling, and adulthood." His voice was calm. That made the silence even tighter. Madison gave a confused smile. Karen said, "Matthew, sit down." He didn't even glance at her. "Starting today," he continued, "you can finance all three yourself." The words landed in order, first on Madison, whose face went empty, then on Robert, who actually set his fork down, then on Karen, who went pale before she went furious. Chloe had stopped crying without realizing it. "What are you talking about?" Madison asked. Matt finally looked at Karen and Robert. "You know exactly what I'm talking about." Karen said his name again, sharp this time, but nobody moved, because everyone understood. The acting conservatory, the housing supplement, the endless little rescue payments dressed up as family support. Madison's friend stared at the floor. Robert muttered something, "Don't do this here." Matt kept his eyes on his sister. "I'm already doing it here." Here's the thing about Matt's family that took me years to understand. They didn't see themselves as unfair. They saw themselves as supporting
Talent. Madison was the gifted one, the beautiful one, the one who needed protection from ordinary life. Matt was the reliable one, the one who could handle things, the one who didn't need help because he never asked for it. When Matt was growing up, there were rules. Chores before TV, summer jobs at 15, no help with college. His parents were stricter then, or maybe just more tired and poorer. But when Madison came along, their surprise baby, everything changed. She felt things deeply, they said. She needed support. She wasn't meant for ordinary work. By the time Madison was 19, Matt had been paying for her life for years. Not all of it, but enough. Tuition support, housing help, weekend shifts at a bookkeeping job he hated so she could focus on auditions. I told him clearly I wasn't using my salary for his sister's dream while we still had a daughter to raise. He understood. He just worked more. That night, after we got home and got Chloe settled, Matt opened his laptop. We sat at the kitchen table in the light over the stove. The house was finally quiet except for the refrigerator and Chloe turning once in her room down the hall. Matt logged into the conservatory payment portal, clicked through saved cards, recurring payments, billing contact, housing supplement. "You sure?" I asked once. He nodded without looking up. "If I leave this in place after tonight," he said, "then I'm telling Chloe exactly what her place is." He removed his card, canceled the automatic tuition draft, deleted the backup payment for the housing supplement, changed the billing email from his address to Madison's. Hit confirm. A bland little page said the updates had been saved. Madison called 19 minutes later. Matt looked at the screen, put it on speaker, and set the phone between us. "What did you do?" she demanded before he said hello. In the background, I could hear traffic and one of her friends asking what happened. "I stopped paying your expenses." She gave this disbelieving laugh. "Because I didn't want cake?" "No, because you humiliated Chloe for making one." The call lasted 23 minutes. Madison tried everything: hurt feelings, accusations, guilt. Then Karen called, using that clipped managerial tone. Then Robert, louder and less polished. Matt didn't soften a single edge. 3 days later, Chloe came home from school with a shopping bag. "Aunt Madison met me outside school," she said. "She said she was sorry. We got smoothies. She said she never wanted me to think she didn't love me." Matt and I exchanged the same look without speaking. Chloe kept going, talking fast because Hope does that. "She was crying, Dad. She said the school was already warning her about late fees. She said if you could just put the card back for now, everything could go back to normal." There it was, tucked into the middle of the apology like a wire inside a toy. "Whose idea was it for her to talk to you about money?" Matt asked. Chloe hesitated. "She said I was the only one who could get through to Dad." Matt didn't lecture her. He picked up his phone and called Madison right there at the kitchen counter, put it on speaker.
Do not use my daughter to negotiate your tuition. Madison tried for wounded. I was apologizing. No, you were recruiting. The texts came 20 minutes later. Madison didn't bother being subtle once the money was out of reach. I never wanted this mess. Your dad ruined everything. If he won't help me, there's no point pretending we're still close. Chloe sat on the bottom stair and said, "She said she never wants to see me again." Matt took a slow breath. "That is not about you." Then why did she say it to me? There was no good answer. I sat beside her and told her the truth. Because some adults hurt the person they think is easiest to reach. Chloe pushed the lip gloss bag away with her foot, pulled out her phone, muted Madison's texts, unfollowed her accounts, handed me the phone so I could check for any other messages waiting to sting. She didn't look lighter yet, but she looked clearer. 6 months later, our Saturdays look different. Chloe still bakes, but now the cakes stay in kitchens where people say thank you before anything else. She signed up for pastry class at the community center with money Matt used to spend on Madison's housing supplement. He drives her there every week. He hasn't spoken to Karen or Robert since they stood on our porch and tried to turn tuition into a moral emergency. Through relatives, we heard they borrowed against the house to keep helping Madison. It still wasn't enough. She had to get a job at a retail cosmetics store while staying in school. From where I stand, that sounds like ordinary adulthood. A few weeks ago, Madison sent one message through a cousin. It was short and free of excuses. She said she was sorry for mocking the cake, sorry for using Chloe, and sorry for making love feel conditional. Chloe read it twice, set the phone down, said, "Maybe later." In our house, later is allowed. So is distance. So is starting again carefully if it ever becomes safe enough to matter. If this story resonated with you, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to Anonymous Confessions, and share your own family betrayal stories in the comments. This community means everything to me, and I genuinely read what you write. Now it's just a kid baking for people who deserve the plate, and a family that finally learned the difference between love and leverage. What do you think? Did my husband do the right thing cutting her off? Should he have done it sooner? And was he right to let our daughter decide for herself whether she still wanted contact? Let me know in the comments. And remember, sometimes the sweetest revenge is just protecting the people who actually matter. So that's the story. The cake is gone, but my daughter's still here. And honestly, that's the only thing that ever really counted.